Hello all. Welcome to this particular session on software development and SDLC challenges phase-wise. So, to begin with, we all know that any software which is getting developed has to travel or it travels in a life cycle. We call it as software development life cycle. What are the phases or what are the stages through which this particular software goes? The first and the foremost is the requirement. There you go. So there are requirement, analysis and design, implementation. After that, testing is there, then deployment and maintenance. These are 6 highlighted phases in SDLC, in any SDLC model. Let's understand one by one quickly, and we will also discuss what are the challenges associated with those particular phases. When I talk from the requirement phase point of view, what could be the problems in the requirements? First, user unclear about some requirements. It is being observed that many times even users, they are unaware of what they are exactly expecting. For example, if I give you one performance requirement here as an example, like my application should work fast, but how fast? And it should work fast for how many users? This is still unclear. This is an example of unclear requirements. Multiple users with different expectations. In our earlier sessions, we have discussed about types of users. Now, if I am a new user, my expectations, and if I am a very professional user, or you can say expert user, my expectations will be different. The third, which is one of the interesting and one of the threatening challenge, which is we call it as changing requirements. Many times, if the users, they are not aware or 100% aware that what exactly they are expecting from that particular application, they give some high level requirements. Application development starts, and in between, if there are multiple change requests, then it will be a problem for the development team, because then they have to do lot of things again and again, and things go to and fro. So these are the challenges what we can list down from this particular requirement phase. Second phase, analysis and design. Technical feasibility at optimum cost. It is being expected that whichever design we are going to cater should have this particular optimum cost. That means there should not be the resources which are estimated, not more than that or not less than that, or at times even less than that is okay, but not more than that. And here it starts with the problem. Mapping design to the future growth of application. It is being told or it is being said that whenever an application development is going on, ideally the futuristic thought should be there. That means if currently my application is catering to 100 people, in coming future that application should or may be catering to 1000, maybe across the globe, something like that. And if the people who are into design phase, working in design phase, like for example architects maybe, they fail to identify what kind of a growth a user can expect from this particular application, then it will be a problem. Optimal design of a components to cater to the functional and non-functional needs. Non-functional and functional. I'm not going in detail, but just in a nutshell, I'll tell you. Functional requirement says that what is expected out of this particular application, and non-functional requirement says how beautifully or how quickly or how clearly that particular output is getting displayed. Now, catering to both the things for functional and non-functional point of view becomes a challenge. Design not catering to the performance expectation of the user. If you see on the right hand side, this is the first problem which an application may face. I'll give you a simple example. Let's consider any of the web application which is being developed. That particular application is developed and deployed across the globe. But what is happening that when it is being worked upon or tested in some control environment where it was tested with some 5 users, 10 users, or maximum to 10 or 1000 users, that was working perfectly fine. But when it becomes COTS, that is commercial off the shelf, is getting deployed across the globe, the number of users are now exponentially higher. And when the number of users are increasing or increase beyond the limitations or beyond the expectations, the performance issue may start. And this is because this particular optimal design of component, which is not catering to this particular specific non-functional need, we call it as performance. Now, technology not supporting certain required features. It is being observed since our learning days that some applications are good and open and works fantastically on some browsers. Some application does not work. Why it is happening? That means there is something which is missing. Maybe cross-browser testing, maybe cross-platform testing, kind of a thing. And that's where technology not supporting certain required features. More on this, if we go with some important features from Java 8, those are not supported in Java 7 or earlier Java versions, then there could be a problem. Implementation. Implementation is nothing but coding. Availability of skilled and experienced resources for the technology in use, one of the biggest challenge. Managing the change in the code and code optimization. Now, managing the change in the code, this is due to, again, what I'm saying, I'm taking my pointer to the requirement phase. Your project has started, development has begun. But in between, if there is a slight change in the requirement or a major change in the requirement, developers need to sit back, understand, and make the changes throughout the code. They have to go for a big time code optimization. If you consider everything here, these particular are the bigger challenges. Now, due to all these confusions, due to constant refactoring, constant changes, making the code changes, what will happen? This is what happened. Problems in the code leading to incorrect working of the program, because it's all mess now. A lot of things are getting changed, a lot of things are getting added, removed, and the entire chain gets disturbed. Going forward, testing. This is another phase in SDLC. What are the challenges? Availability of application knowledge. Now, it is being said that if you want to be a successful tester or if you want to work in software testing successfully, you should have a fair idea about what kind of application you are dealing with, what kind of a domain you are dealing with. If you don't have any background, if you don't have any knowledge, or if you have not invested enough time to understand the business processes or the domain, then there is a challenge because you will not be able to work effectively. Availability of test data to be used in testing. I will not go in details of the test data here, but the data which is used for testing, like for example, if I want to test a field where credit card is getting entered, now nobody is going to give you the real credit card. Then you have to check that that particular edit box is accepting certain number of characters or numbers maybe. So 15 is the right thing. So 15 numbers, any random numbers you can. Oh yes, it is accepting the credit card because that particular number is actually presenting a credit card, a virtual credit card maybe, and time constraint. If I talk from this particular testing phase point of view, a most commonly observed challenge is the third one, time constraint. What happens? This particular problem began at requirement phase. The requirements were unclear at the beginning. Development started, the code is being generated, the build is being made, but there are certain changes which are coming in between, and now the code refactoring is happening. Some changes are happening to and fro, customer review, client review happening, and then the code is getting finalized. But what is happening in this entire process is the time utilization is on a higher side, and by the time testing team getting this particular build for testing, what is happening? The time has already lapsed, and now the testing team will have a very less time. On top of that, if the earlier mentioned two challenges still lies, like the testers are not well aware of the domain or the application or the uses, or they don't have the endpoint or the end user's perspective, and even the data is not ready, some issues will never get detected, and that will be the problem with this particular phase. Let's move to the next, deployment. When I see from the deployment point of view, readiness and the correctness of the user environment, acceptance of user to the new application. I talk on this more. So when it comes to deployment, normally when the software is getting built in an organization, there are multiple environments created. For example, for development team, there is a development environment. For our testing team, there is a test environment. To do UAT or to do client testing, there is a UAT environment. before I actually deploy my software into the final production environment, there is intermittent, environment. We call it a staging kind of a thing. Now, if any of the thing is not available, any of the environment is down, or the data is not available in that environment, or I am unable to test or deploy, then it may cause a delay. And then acceptance of a user to the new application is again a challenge, because at times when the application is getting developed and when users are checking against the requirements given, then there might be some conflict or there are certain issues which a user can raise. What is the output? Non-availability of the application to the user, or complete feature support is not available. So what is happening? At my end, the environment is not ready. Maybe the data is not ready. I'm unable to deploy 100%. My testers were not able to test 100%. Now my users are not able to test 100%. The feature is not available. In all, the customer may say that the application is not up to the mark. Let's move to the next, maintenance. Now, maintenance phase is a very different and very unique phase in SDLC. Though it's the last phase, but it actually impacts the entire SDLC at times. I'll tell you how. If you see the challenges, change request management. Now, in the maintenance phase, there are certain things which are closely monitored and added or subtracted. Like for example, the requirements were getting updated, but at a development phase, the people said no, let's take it in the next phase, or maybe in the time of maintenance, we will see how we can manage these requirements. Now, managing these particular changes at this particular stage becomes a challenge. Code changes management works in a similar way. I can also tell you what can be the problem. In testing, there is one of the important type of testing which we follow. We call it as regression testing. I'll talk more on this regression testing in this particular course. Going ahead, we will create a regression test and regression framework that is there. But to understand this particular challenge, I will give you a simple example. Let's consider that there is a requirement which says that a customer wants a calculator which will add two numbers. The calculator is getting ready, tested, is going to get deployed in the maintenance phase, and now the client is coming back and saying that now add multiplication also. Now, of course, the developers needs to revisit the code if they can take some help from the code. If not, then how this new code can be developed, what will be the estimation, how soon we can prepare. The code is getting ready. Now the code is getting deployed in the test environment for testing. Testers are going to test multiplication. But this is a rule that any new change brings new defects in the existing one. So testers needs to go and again check the previously passed things also. At least the ones which are on a high priority or where there is a high dependency. This is what we call it as a regression testing. And this is a very crucial part in maintenance testing. But if these particular challenges arise, what will happen? Features available earlier become non-available or do not work. And if my regression test finds this particular problem, then the entire deployment has to be reverted and entire development needs to be restarted. So these are the typical phases, SDLC phases and challenges. Now, we talked about these particular phases, what could be the challenges, what could happen. Then what could be the possible issues in developed application if such a challenges arise and we do not deal correctly, or there is no mechanism at our end to deal with these challenges? What will happen? Let's understand. Challenges in SDLC phase can lead to issues in developed application. What can go wrong? Functionality wise, not working at all, partially working, some features not available, inconsistent working. If any of these things happens, we call it as this is a problem functionally. Now, at user interface level, wrong alignment, no uniformity in screen design, wrong type of control used. With respect to response, that is non-functional, slow reaction to the user action. Again, there is one more very interesting type here, difficulty to use, no help is available, error messages and related help not meaningful, difficulty to use application without help. So all these particular issues may arise. Certain more Unable to add attachment. Let's consider this particular email application. Something like this happened. Then unable to add attachment in compose email, or compose email is getting sent but not visible in the sent mailbox. This is a functional problem, a functionality problem. Wrong alignment of the labels and fields in the compose mail, or in received email, picture is not clearly visible. UI issue. In compose mail, email address from the address book is taking time to load, or received emails are taking time to open after clicking on inbox folder. This is related to performance. So, if we consider from SDLC point of view, if at a project level, project team is failing to address the challenges, then they will definitely have the problems listed before in the slides, which will lead to functional or non-functional issues in the software which is getting developed. Some more unread messages in inbox are not getting highlighted, or compose email not developed as a wizard. This falls under usability. So to summarize, SDLC challenges needs to be addressed at the right time, and which is very important. Now, how to prevent this issue? Answer is testing. Introduce testing early in SDLC and not after the implementation. Now, how we can test early? How we can implement or introduce testing at the requirement phase, or maybe at the design and analysis phase, or maybe at the coding phase? We will see what is the answer to these particular questions. Now, after looking all these particular SDLC phases, SDLC challenges, what problems could happen, what are the types of problems can happen, what is the solution? Now let's define software testing. Software testing is a process which helps to identify correctness, completeness, security, and quality of a developed software and software work products. More on this definition we will see in the coming sessions. Thank you very much.